You're watching Memory Lane Studio, your daily dose of clarity, calm, and smarter living.
So let's talk about the 1970s. It was a decade of massive cultural shifts, and believe me, the toy box was no exception. This wasn't just a time for a few new cool toys. It's when the very rules of play got a complete rewrite. We're talking about a decade that took everything from cultural anxiety to blockbuster movies to the dawn of the digital age, and used it to create the playbook for how kids play and how companies sell, even to this day.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll see how a post-war pivot totally changed our action figures. Then we're going to dive into the blockbuster effect when movies took over. After that, we'll witness the first sparks of the electronic revolution, have some fun with the decade's wildest fads, and finally, we'll tie it all together to show how the 70s really did change play forever. All right, first up, a post-war pivot. You know, toys don't just appear out of thin air. They're a reflection of the world around us. And in the early 1970s, that world was absolutely dominated by the social and political fallout from the Vietnam War. And there's no better example of this than G.I. Joe. In the 60s, he was America's movable fighting man, all military gear, all the time. But by 1970, he got a complete rebrand. The military fatigues were out, and the adventure team was in. All of a sudden, Joe wasn't fighting wars anymore. He was on these wild missions, like the hunt for the pygmy gorilla. A huge change.
So why the huge shift? Well, it was a direct response to the times. With so much anti-military sentiment, sales for war-themed toys were just taking a nosedive. Hasbro had a choice: adapt or watch their biggest toy fade away. So they pivoted to adventure. They even gave Joe that fuzzy, flocked hair makeover. It's a perfect case of culture forcing a massive business decision. It was a total rethink of what a hero even was, from a soldier to an explorer.
Next up, the blockbuster effect. So if the war told toy companies what not to make, Hollywood was about to hand them a brand new script. This is when the silver screen moved right into the toy aisle, creating a bond that would never be broken.
Now, this didn't just happen overnight. The seeds were planted back in 1973 with the $6 Million Man. His action figure was really the first huge TV merchandise success. But then, in 1977, a little movie called Star Wars came out, and the game was changed on a galactic scale. You really can't overstate the impact here. The demand for Star Wars toys wasn't just big, it was astronomical. Kenner, the toy company, was completely unprepared for the tidal wave of kids wanting Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader figures. They were just swamped.
And this is where things get kind of wild and honestly pretty brilliant. Facing a huge shortage right before Christmas in '77, Kenner did something nobody had ever done before. They sold an empty box. I'm serious. This early bird certificate package was just a promise, a piece of cardboard saying you'd get the figures in the mail months later. And it was a massive bestseller. They successfully sold the idea of a toy, creating the pre-order model we see everywhere today.
See, Star Wars didn't just sell a bunch of toys. It created a whole new formula for selling them. It introduced that smaller 3 3/4-inch scale, which made the figures more affordable. Then, they put pictures of the entire character line on the back of each package, turning playtime into a collecting mission. And for the very first time, people started buying toys thinking, hey, this might be valuable someday. This blueprint launched Kenner into the big leagues, and it's a model that's still used today. Now, at the very same time that Hollywood was taking over the toy aisle, another revolution was quietly happening. This one was powered by batteries and microchips. Welcome to the dawn of digital play. Before the Game Boy, before the Nintendo Switch, you had these guys. In 1977, Mattel Electronic Football, with its simple little red blips, became a total obsession. The next year, Parker Brothers gave us Merlin, this more advanced computer brain that could play 6 different games. For the very first time, kids could hold an entire digital world right in their hands.
Handhelds were one thing, but the real holy grail, the thing everyone wanted, was to capture that magic of the video arcade and bring it home. The race was on to make video games a permanent part of the family living room.
And the company that won that race was Atari. When the Atari 2600 came out in 1977, it was a revolution for 3 big reasons. First, it was a dedicated console that lived in your home. Second, and this was the real game changer, it used swappable cartridges. Suddenly, your machine wasn't stuck with just one game. It could play a potentially endless library of them. And third, it launched with iconic games that got an entire generation absolutely hooked.
But you know, it wasn't all just about microchips and blockbusters. Beyond all these huge changes, the 70s also had this really wild, individualistic spirit. It was all about celebrating pure,
simple fun. And sometimes the concepts were wonderfully bizarre. And nothing captures that spirit better than the pet rock. In 1975, an ad executive brilliantly marketed a simple stone as the perfect pet. It came in a little cardboard carrier with air holes and this hilarious manual on how to care for your new, super low-maintenance friend. It was pure satire, a complete joke, and America absolutely loved it. And the result was just staggering. In just a few months, over 1.5 million pet rocks were sold. It turned a simple joke into a multi-million-dollar phenomenon. It's really the ultimate proof of the power of a great marketing idea. The pet rock wasn't alone, though. The decade was just full of these sensations. You had slime, that awesome non-toxic green goo in a little trash can. There were shrinky dinks, where you could magically turn your drawings into tiny plastic charms. And of course, skateboarding just exploded from a small hobby into a national craze, all thanks to the invention of those smooth urethane wheels in '72.
So when you put it all together, the cultural shifts, the Hollywood movies, the digital dawn, and all those quirky fads, what you see is a decade that didn't just give us new toys, it fundamentally rewired the very nature of play itself.
And this chart just lays it out so clearly. Before the 70s, toy themes were pretty generic, cowboys, soldiers. After the 70s, they became tied to specific movies and shows. Marketing went from just selling you one toy to selling you a whole universe you had to collect. And technology, well, it went from being all physical to being more and more digital and screen-based.
The bottom line is this. These trends that started in the 1970s, the media tie-ins, the digital gameplay, the gotta-catch-em-all marketing, they created the blueprint, the entire playbook for the modern toy industry we see today.
And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. The 70s taught the toy industry how to sell us stories, digital experiences, and the thrill of the chase. The real question is, as we look at childhood today, which of those incredibly powerful lessons do you think has left the biggest, most permanent mark?
Thank you for being here today at Memory Lane Studio. If this brought you a little clarity or comfort, please hit subscribe. And now, here's another video I think you'll enjoy. Check it out here.